So, back when I reviewed Marvel's Avengers on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, I was not nuts about the campaign. It was a bait and switch. You didn't actually get to play as, you know, the Avengers. You played as Kamala Khan. Although, post-campaign, I had a lot of fun. However, there was kind of that sore spot that Square Enix left me with. It's like, yeah, you kind of dropped the ball on the Avengers. And so when they announced that they were making Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, I was very skeptical, but hopeful, because making a video game about the Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of a cool prospect, especially since they were doing all the characters from the movie. Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket, Groot, and Drax. And so I thought, this could be okay. The trailers looked good, in my opinion. And I liked that it was all single player only. There was not going to be any multiplayer or microtransactions or whatnot. So I was cautiously optimistic. And I was able to get a copy of it relatively cheap shortly after it came out. So, what did I think of it? It was pretty good. Let's get into it.
Star-Lord, right?
It's Star-Lord. Oh, crap!
Okay, so first things first. I have to get this out of the way. This is one of the most beautiful games I have ever played. And I'm not saying that it's the most graphically impressive game that makes every other game. No, like the art design of this game is stunning. The art directors of this game knew when to use colors at the right moment. They knew when to use gold, red, purple, pink, blue. I mean, every environment has its own color palette. Everything with the Nova Corps has blue and gold aspects to it, whereas the Church of... I can't even remember the church's name. One of the factions in the game has gold and red, and there's another faction that's on purple, and the art directors use a perfect blend of color in this game, and it's amazing. It doesn't hurt that this game is gorgeous as well. I played this after the Ps5 update, where they gave it ray tracing, and there were three options. There was performance mode, graphic quality mode, and then ray tracing mode. I didn't notice a huge improvement of the graphic mode over the ray tracing mode, so I just left it on ray tracing, and good gosh, I had some truly jaw-dropping moments I came across in this game, just gawking at how beautiful this thing was. Is it the most beautiful game I've ever played? Possibly not, but the art direction is some of the best I've ever seen in a video game, period. And I cannot stress that enough. If you want a beautiful time in a video game, play this game, because it was gorgeous. The art direction was second to none, and I am so looking forward to seeing whatever the studio does next. The other thing that I couldn't believe was the musical soundtrack. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy, the movies, they have some pretty amazing songs in the soundtracks, and one of the amazing things about the movies, especially the first one, was when they were writing the script, they chose the songs in the script. They weren't added after the fact when they started making the movie. And they were able to get the rights to all those songs in that first movie. So they wrote the movie around those songs. And so that's why some of the songs work so great in the moment. And in this video game, I can't imagine how expensive this video game was to make, because they get some truly amazing songs from the 80s. I couldn't believe it. And there was even a couple of original songs by this fake band that all the songs were really, really catchy. Like, I was just solely impressed by the music in this game. And one of the coolest things is inside the Milano, you can actually go to the tape deck and choose which song is playing in the background. It's really, really cool. And a lot of really great songs. And another nice touch, by the way, is in the options menu, you can actually turn off the licensed music if you're a streamer or if you're going to do a live stream if you're yourself playing this game. Which is amazing. It's a small detail that developers thought of that a lot of developers would not have thought of. And kudos, guys, in the development team for making that option so that streamers could still stream this game without having to worry about 100 copyright violations with the original music played in said movie. I know I have a lot of copyright strikes or warnings with my reviews because I'm just playing a small section of an official trailer that happened to have music in said trailer. I'm not even playing the entire song. And like, I've had a few times where it's like, yeah, your video's not on YouTube because of this one 5-second clip of this Rolling Stones song in this Call of Duty trailer. And it's like, look, it's from the trailer, I'm using the trailer, I'm getting off topic. It was a nice touch that they did. Now, one thing I did like about the game was instead of having you be able to play as all of the Guardians, they made it so that you could only play as one, Star-Lord. Okay, that's the only Guardian you can play as. Now, some people might see that as a turnoff or a disappointment. I actually saw it as a bold and interesting move because that way the entire development team could focus on just one character and how they played. Alright, now the rest of the Guardians aren't just there for show. You could actually send out commands to the different Guardians and you unlock stuff over time for each Guardian so that by the end of the game, you can have them doing all these really cool, insane moves while you're doing all these really cool, insane moves. And so it helped make the game feel much tighter and cohesive, and it didn't feel like everyone had a half-assed job done. It felt like everyone put all their focus into one character, allowing them to have a good job on controlling and playing said character. Now, that being said, because of that, unfortunately, the last couple of missions, gameplay does become repetitive. And it does get a little old playing as just one character towards the end of the game. Now keep in mind, this is like a 20-hour video game, so of course it's going to feel old. I am impressed that they made it so long. They made it to like the 16-hour point, the 17-hour point, without making Star-Lord feel repetitive. So that was impressive to me. But it's still an issue you have to be aware of, is because you only get to play as one character, it does become repetitive towards the end of the game. And because of this, I would love to see a sequel to this game that follows a different character as the lead playable character. Perhaps the next game you can play as Gamora, and you have the other Guardians with her, and then the following game you can play as like Rocket and Groot, you know, something like that. But I would love to see it where the sequel does have you play as a different character, because that'd be kind of cool. That way they can still focus on the one character, but you get a whole new type of gameplay experience. Instead of shooting with guns, you got blades, or, you know, strength, technology, whatever. Now, another thing that really surprised me about this game was the character development. So, granted, you had 20 hours here, and with the two movies combined, you got 4 hours. So, obviously there's going to be a lot more character development, but there was some really great character development with all 4 of the characters in this game. I say 4 because Groot just says I am Groot the entire time, but Rocket does talk about Groot's past as well, so that's kind of neat. But you get a lot more development with Rocket, you find out more about where he's from, how he was made, you get more development with Gamora, you find out more about how she was raised instead of just a couple flashes. Drax was the surprising one because in the movies, Drax the Destroyer is always a bumbling idiot who can do a little bit of heavy fighting, but he usually just always screws shit up and, you know, an idiot. in the game, he does have that way too literal like mentality that Drax in the movies does, but he is not an idiot. He is a very damaged and torn individual who did some very, very shady stuff in his past. And he has the title of Drax the Destroyer for good reason. And he is also the one that did kill Thanos in this game. This game takes place post-Thanos instead of pre-Thanos like the movies did. And it's kind of fascinating seeing the universal world building or the galaxy building in this game. They do a lot of world building in this game, to the point that it feels like they're going to try and do an MCU in like video game form, because they make reference to other characters. They even make reference to the Avengers at one point in this game. They reference characters that are most likely going to be in the sequel, little cameos, all kinds of stuff. And it's truly impressive. And they also make a lot of reference to things that have already happened, like the intergalactic war between everyone and Thanos. And so the galaxy building was great in this game, and you get to see some really awesome locations. Like, you get to go to Nowhere, and Nowhere was pretty cool. You gotta walk around Nowhere for a little bit. But going back to character development, the character development was very incredibly strong, especially with Drax the Destroyer and with Peter Quill. They do a good job of making Peter Quill feel more important than Chris Pratt's Peter Quill. Chris Pratt's Peter Quill is just like a happy-go-lucky pirate that wants to do a good thing. He has had a couple of great moments of character development, especially with some of the scenes with him and Ego in the sequel, and with him and, you know, read his mom's letter on the first one. But in this game, you really get to dive into the relationship between him and his mother, how she was not only a surrogate, not only was she a mother to him, but she was also kind of like a surrogate father to him as well, in sort of a way. And then you also find out about his relationship with him and Yondu. Even though we never get to see Yondu in this game, you find out a lot about Yondu, and you also find out a little bit more about Peter Quill's origin in the comic books. It's not like the origin in the movies, but you get to find out like he's part of this race and whatnot. And so they have some really, really great character development. And one thing that really helps is with the dialogue tree. So every now and then in the campaign, as you're playing as Peter Quill, you get to choose like one of two, sometimes one of three options. I think a few times one of four options of what you get to have Peter Quill say. And like, I was kind of trying to turn him more into a reluctant leader than just a joking asshole. And you can have him just the joking asshole, but I was trying to have him more leadership type, and I was able to kind of do that with the dialogue choices in the game. And there are certain things that will kind of trigger your teammates. Like, your teammates will appreciate that when you chose one choice or whatnot. And so there was a couple of times where it felt kind of forced, the dispute between him and Rocket, Peter Quill and Rocket. It kind of felt forced, and I wasn't entirely buying it. But for the most part, character development was pretty good in this game. Now, not all is perfect. There are some facial animation discrepancies, and some of the voice acting doesn't help. Now, don't get me wrong, the voice acting across the field is pretty good, but I did have some issues with the voice actor for Peter Quill. Now, he does do a good job, but there's a few times, and this might be because of the animation, sometimes it might be because of the voice acting, but there'll be a few times in the game where he'll be like, "Oh no, I didn't mean that," and it does not work. It feels kind of forced and just seems weird. But the good news is that when the moments happen, when emotion is a requirement, the actors all step up to the plate, and Peter Quill has some truly captivating moments of emotion in this game. The flashback sequence at the farmhouse was a particular highlight. I mean, damn. And they really kick off the music at the right moments in this game. The sad part is they don't end them at the right moments. Like, You'll be like for example, someone will be doing this really cool like action move, and like they'll kick off like "I Need a Hero," that like 1980s song at the right moment. But as the scene ends, the song just like kind of cuts off. It doesn't like do this nice fade out, and which kind of hurts the immersion into the story, because apart from that, the licensed music and the original music really kick off at the perfect times, and then they get turned off at the worst times. So just something I noticed. Another thing is that there is a large amount of costumes in this game that you have to find all of them, and so you might want to look up a few walkthroughs so you can find them. But like when I saw the character designs of Guardians of the Galaxy, I wasn't entirely nuts about them, but I didn't hate it either. And it was really neat that they had alternate costumes that you could have them unlock that do show up in cutscenes. Like case in point, they have costumes for all the characters of Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie. So you could have Peter Quill look like Star-Lord from the movie, you can have Gamora look like her from the movie, and so on and so forth. Just there's a few times in the game where it doesn't work, because like there's one cutscene where I had Peter Quill wearing the movie's Guardians of the Galaxy outfit, and these two characters show up and said, "We're looking for a guy who has the word Star-Lord ran across his back. What's that ran across your back?" They can't read English. And he goes, it says something else completely. And like the jacket from the movie Guardians of the Galaxy doesn't have anything around the back, so it took me out of the scene. There's a couple of scenes like that, but for the most part, all the alternate costumes that you have turned on will show up in cutscenes, and I absolutely loved it. So that was a lot of fun. I liked finding the alternate costumes, and I had tracked out most of them. I'll have to play through the game again to find the rest of them. But definitely, if you don't like the main character designs, you can find something you will like. Something that was a little hard with the Avengers game, because you have to buy all the costumes. Here, you don't have to buy any of the costumes, and that is a nice plus. Another surprising thing that I found impressive was they were still introducing new types of enemy characters, like almost by the end of the game. There was like probably 2 levels after we got introduced to another enemy type. We still had another 2 levels before the end of the game, and that was surprising. Usually by the halfway point, you're seeing all the enemies, and it's just busy work for the rest of the game. Not with this one. We were still getting new types of enemies, but close to the end of the game, and I really liked that. It showed that they put a lot of effort into this game. Now, there is some platforming in this game, and that's probably the weakest aspect, especially the sliding sections, because with the sliding sections, you literally have no control over your speed, and you have to like jump at the right time, and those sections were what killed me the most in the game. Very rarely did I get killed by enemy units. It was the sliding sections that killed me the most. And then in terms of the story, I did like the story quite a bit. It felt right at home with the type of story you would have seen in the James Gunn film series. I thought the pacing was pretty good. I thought it had some really great emotional moments, and for the most part, this was an excellent video game. If you haven't tried it or you're still on the fence, I would highly recommend you go out and play this as quickly as possible. The few criticisms I had with this game doesn't really hold it back at all from being a fun time. Absolutely, you should go try this out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Now, before you go, don't forget to do the thing. The thing I told you about. My name's Chris with 11 Hour Reviews. This has been my review of Guardians of the Galaxy, or Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and that will be all.